Presence learning has been around for 5 years. We very much started based on our own personal experience. So when I was younger, I was gifted, but I had dyslexia. So I'm very familiar with a lot of these issues. And my co-founder has a cousin on the autism spectrum. And a lot of this came out of our passion for this area, but also the potential that we saw for technology to make a positive difference here. And not just a positive difference at a small scale, but at a very large scale. And to help a large number of kids who were oftentimes struggling through no fault of their own. Maybe it's because of where they were born or where they lived, or they didn't have access to the specialists that they needed, or they needed to talk to a bilingual clinician, or they needed a more flexible schedule, which online care and telemedicine afforded. We had realized that there was a need and an openness to technology and to telemedicine solutions very early on. We'd experienced it in our own lives, the power of technology. Both me and my co-founder had worked with video. We had a lot of experience with us. To us, it was secondhand. And we all, of course, have heard about digital natives and how these kids are growing up online and how they're even more comfortable with it than me, someone who's fundamentally didn't grow up with these technologies, yet works with them every single day. And that experience has been borne out time and time again through the research. There's over 50 peer-reviewed studies showing that this use of telemedicine is just as, if not more effective than traditional in-person on-the-ground therapy. There's the endorsement of every major sort of professional organization that's involved in these fields, stating that telemedicine is a valid means of service delivery. But I think that the change and shift that we've seen over time is that there's just been increasing cultural acceptance of this. So I think if you went out in 2009, people were saying, why would we do that? I don't understand even what that is. And now it's much more along the lines of, who are we going to do this with? This is a part of our program. I think at least 5 of the top 100 districts have issued RFPs for this service in the past year. So we're seeing a major sort of increase, and schools are increasingly viewing this as a standard part of their program because they realize they need to provide a continuum of care and a continuum of options. So they look at this as a new option that can fit specific use cases for individual students or sites or specific situations. A significant change on the horizon, and one that a lot of people are already shifting to, is results-driven accountability. For too long in the world of special education, we've been really focused on the inputs. So how many minutes of therapy will each kid get? And less focused on the outputs, right? Which is, what results are those minutes getting for that kid? A lot of times it's hard for therapists when they're sitting in sessions to take all the notes that they need and gather all the data that they need, particularly if they're seeing larger groups. So what we've done is made it very easy to enter both objective and subjective data, how the students are performing, qualitative and quantitative. So we've made very easy, intuitive interfaces around both. The therapist can enter their notes and track how the student is progressing within the session, as opposed to trying to jot down everything they can remember during break, at lunch, or after the day. I think that the first thing when people think about telemedicine, they wonder, hey, is this here to replace me or to help me? And I think that telemedicine depends on the people who are there to be successful. And that remote clinician, there's always a human being on the other end, right? So that remote clinician is depending on the community there and a part of that community there once they start working with them. So telemedicine programs that are aimed at replacement don't work because they're not functioning and being a positive on the ground. Telemedicine programs that are designed to supplement and complement what a school is doing and serve specific student needs do work. And those are what's thriving. And that's where we focus. So let me give you a couple of quick examples. If I'm a very large school district, let's say I have 800 speech therapists and occupational therapists, I already don't have enough of them. And every year I know a certain amount are going to go on maternity leaves, a certain amount are going to go on medical leaves, a certain amount are going to retire, a certain amount will just quit and go to another place. Their spouse might move, something's going to happen. So those large districts need a valve, right, to sort of cover those gaps. And that's what we do. Or say that there are students who need to see a bilingual therapist. We can do that far more easily because that bilingual therapist doesn't have to move to that area. He or she can effectively cover more ground. Another really classic example of how we're used is in deep partnership with schools and existing clinicians. So It is very common because there are not enough clinicians out there. We're short about 10%. We need about 10% more clinicians than we have in the whole country to even just cover what the IEP needs that we have are. So there's a big gap. So that makes it all the more painful for schools when someone goes out on, let's say, a maternity leave or is about to retire, and they just leave the school district entirely, maybe don't return to work. So what we've done is create these flex work programs working with schools to ease people back in. So if someone goes out on maternity leave, they don't have to start working full time right after their leave is over. They can ease back in, maybe work 2 days a week, then up to 3 days a week and 4 days a week with us. We give them that flexibility. Likewise, if someone is thinking about retiring but doesn't want to go cold turkey right off into the sunset and go on wonderful vacations, what we can do is similarly allow them to work flexibly, allow them to stay in the community they're involved in 2 or 3 days a week, but also take their retirement and enjoy their lives. So I think it's really those types of programs that are centered around the clinicians and the students and the schools and really align everyone that are where the growth is and where the positive contribution here is. We see schools are endlessly innovative about this. We've got some interesting programs going on where clinicians, because there's not enough of them, they're so overwhelmed that they've got incredibly large caseloads. Sometimes they're seeing 100 plus students, which is just physically impossible to do. So the special education director oftentimes will say to their clinicians, their speech therapists, their occupational therapists, their behavioral health folks, hey, I'm going to give you each 10, 5, 10, 20, however many presence learning slots. You can use them or not, but the idea is that you can use this to rationalize your schedule. We're going to get better retention. The kids so you will stay longer, you won't burn out and leave. The kids will get better treatment because the groups won't be as large, and everybody wins. That's right. We have several clinicians that we work with who are beloved by their school, but had to leave that had to leave that community for some reason. Traditionally, a spouse gets a job in another city, or there's a family issue going on, and we've been able to keep those clinicians with their community that they've been working within. So if we've got a school, let's say in Oregon, and the clinician has to move to Texas, she can still work with the school in Oregon from Texas, still see her same kids, still meet with the same families, still communicate with the same teachers, whereas before that wouldn't have been an option. Kids are amazing. They really, the progress that they make is unbelievable. We had, 2 kids I just blown away by their stories recently. One is a child on the autism spectrum here in the Central Valley in California, who had been getting speech therapy his whole school career. He was a sophomore when we started working with him, but he just blew us all away and started saying his first year words about a year after starting to work with us. And, now he's got, I think he's up to 5, somewhere between 5 and 10 words right now. And so this is the first time he's been able to communicate verbally with his mom and his dad and his teacher. So it's a huge step forward. And there's another kid, the story just blows me away, just the determination of these kids. So one child we worked with had a severe speech impairment. He was being mocked and bullied by his peers, largely as a result of that. And he said to his teachers and his family, hey, I'm thinking about ending my life. This is so distressing to me. And so, of course, everyone just came together, the whole IEP team member, and said, what can we do? This is an emergency. And one part of the plan was we doubled the amount of therapy that he got. And within a matter of months, his challenges became far less noticeable. He showed a lot of improvement and worked really hard, and said, hey, I'm not feeling these suicidal thoughts anymore. So we won that kid back. And I think that relates fundamentally to what these related services are, these special education services are, is they impact your sense of yourself, how you interact with the world, your relationships, your communication, whether or not you're going to raise your hand in class, participate, how you make friends. So these are very powerful things, and we count ourselves lucky to be working on them and sharing in this part of these kids' lives. So presence learning going forward will continue to do what we do. We provide high quality clinicians and instructors for telemedicine, for synchronous in-person, face-to-face online instruction. And we started out in speech therapy. We then added occupational therapy. We then added assessments in those two areas. This year, we've added behavioral health and mental health. We'll continue to add new areas. So things going forward are special education instruction. So we're in many cases not just providing the related services now, we're actually providing the special education instruction to students. Many schools don't just struggle to find speech therapists, occupational therapists, and mental and behavioral health workers. They also struggle to find now special education teachers. So we're partnering with a lot of schools in that area as well. I think you'll increasingly see more assessments coming from Presence. We already have social, emotional, and behavioral assessments, and we're working hard on making cognitive and achievement assessments available as well. We will continue to expand until we can serve the full suite of non-instructional needs that students have in the context of schools and other programs that they're enrolled in.